Got a little governor of college football hat on, check. Got like a Merlin themed polo on, check. Welcome to another marvelous episode. This is episode 20. We got a lot of interesting things we're going to talk about today. I've been loving going live, 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. This 4 p.m. time slot seems to be really working, but let's kind of talk about what we're going to get into today. Before I enter in the news segment, we're going to look at Northwestern GM hire. And I believe that, the GM is more lucrative than the GM at the NFL ranks. So we're going to talk about that as well. We're going to also talk about there may be something coming in between. There's such a huge layoff between spring camp and fall camp. So some of the minds were thinking maybe college football needs like some OTAs or something like that. We're going to discuss that. Also, now, we're going to introduce a new segment called Governor's Market Watch. And I'm going to tell you the coaches or players or assistant coaches that I'm buying stock on, that I'm holding stock on. I bought it. I'm going to hold on to it and wait and see, and then stock that I'm selling. So we're going to get to that segment. Governor ruling segment, we're going to be talking about some interesting things as well with that. And then also around the nation, we're going to look at some of the top 10 coaches and honorable mentions under the age of 40. Governor of college football, hashtag go CFB. CFB Nation, your only college football destination. Let's get it. Governor of college football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's CJ
Great defensive
on
minds. They have to be better on that side of it. I'm not sure if it's because of the exposure that college football has now, but it seemed like that we're losing way more players, or like a lot more players are gone, way more than there used to be. And, I want to send our condolences to the family of Nathaniel Bernard Jennings, 19-year-old, who was back at home in Florida. He attends the University of Northwestern, and he was back at home, I guess, for Mother's Day weekend, and he tragically lost his life. It's sad. These kids are fighting to leave some of these environments that they were born in and, trying to make a way for themselves. Yes, we know that amateurism is no longer a part of the sport, but, a lot of these kids are still student athletes. So even if they don't turn professional in the sport that they're trying to turn professional in, getting that degree does matter, and it's super important that they get the degree. So I really want to, send my condolences to their family. It's heartbreaking. We seem to see this, every year now. It didn't feel like it was always this way, where kids are tragically losing their life to senseless violence. And I don't know if it's a jealousy thing. I don't know much about this situation at all. But like these kids who are trying to better themselves, better their families, and really trying to pave the way for the next generation, it's heartbreaking, and it really shouldn't happen. So for me, the governor of college football, from my show, from our platform, CFB Nation, our sincerest condolences. So we will get into other news. John Emery Jr., he's somebody I've been rooting for. He's been in college for a very long time. I think this is his 7th season. I think he was injured last year. Just can't catch a break. And then Caden Durham, of course, excelled in LSU's offense last year. So he's transferring. UTSA seems to be a home. I'm praying that's a fit for him. So shout out to John Emery Jr., man. We rooting for you, brother. I like this hire a lot. Christian Sarkisian, who was a scout with the Cincinnati Bengals, has just became general manager of Northwestern's athletic department. This GM role is really going to bridge the gap between athletic director, who's the athletic director of all of the sports, and then, it really helps with the coach's role. The coaches have a lot to do, whether it's continuing to recruit the players for their team, recruiting the players that are out of high school, recruiting players that are in a portal. There's a lot to do as a head coach in college football. And in my opinion, this GM bridges this gap. And to get a guy with NFL experience, as far as at the scouting ranks, this always helps. Like what, Oklahoma was able to do with Jim Nagy. It always helps having someone that is knowledgeable, that's been there, that's done that. He could say, hey, I've been in the NFL. I've scouted for the NFL. I know what it takes to get to the NFL. And I know when you think of that roadmap to the NFL, Northwestern isn't your first choice, but I promise you, we're going to make this hub for getting players to the next level. I'm going to be rooting for Northwestern a lot. You guys know how I feel about Preston Stone, who was SMU's quarterback. I think he was kind of in an unfair quarterback battle last year with Kevin Jennings. Rhett Lashley, shout out to him. His team was able to make the college football playoff in their inaugural year in the ACC, and that is nothing short of amazing. I just didn't like how the situation was handled. Preston Stone could have definitely started for a lot of different programs out there, and he kind of lost a year of eligibility because they were trying to duel out in fall camp. I think most coaches know coming out of spring camp, even though some truly don't, but I think most coaches have an idea who they believe the guy is, even if it's a wait and see, even if they want to see more. So I'm rooting for, Christian Sarkisian, I'm rooting for this Northwestern program, I'm rooting for Preston Stone. I'm interested to see what really happens with this program. They kind of been, bottom of the barrel in a Big Ten. And we've seen in other conferences teams able to make a leap. Like last year, we seen Vanderbilt make a leap, and we'll see if they'll make a true leap if they can continue that success heading into this season as well. So a lot of people were kind of upset about this big noon kickoff with, arguably the game of the year. It was number one in our ratings yesterday for the top 10 must-see games of 2025. And that's the Texas versus Ohio State game. It's slotted for noon. Time zones matter. We talked about this before as it pertained to TV networks, as it pertained to conference realignment. The more time zones that you can get in, the more revenue you can get off of those different time zones. We know that. So a 12 p.m. kickoff, 12 noon kickoff here on the East Coast is at 12 noon. In Central Time, that's at 11 a.m. It's kind of early, especially because fans won't get out and tailgate. This game will be in Austin. And then on the West Coast, you're talking about a 9 a.m. kickoff. That's not really fair for them. I thought this had prime time billing. Should have known it was going to be on big noon kickoff. But I can see why people will be upset at this noon kickoff. I can certainly see that for sure. So CBS Sports, I feel like every Into the News segment will be just looking at another kind of, post-spring top 25. It was cool being on Overreaction Monday. Shout out to everybody who checked out that show yesterday. We did have quite a few people in there. And, talking to Nino, where his top 5 is. I love seeing where his mind is. And D-Now, who is really creative. D-Now really thinks outside the box with a lot of things. So I'm always intrigued by a lot of his takes. And, who he has in his top 5. Like, he had Arizona State in his top 5. I didn't know he was as high on Arizona State as he was, but I know he's a big Kenny Dillingham believer, so that's why I will continue to look at other ones. And I'm going to ask Nino, Boomer, and D-Now to do a top 25, and then we could talk about that until I enter the news segment. But shout out to everybody who's been showing mad support to this show, mad support to Overreaction Monday, mad support to World of College Football. I promise you guys, we can bring you guys a lot more content this year. We're expanding. I told you guys about the subsidiary yesterday. It's going to be SEC based, I can tell you that. So, like I said, it's a lot more content. 4 days a week is my promise. Here on out. We don't do off season. I'm giving you guys 4 days a week. I really love this 4 p.m. time slot. It may change in the fall to an early morning time slot. We'll kind of play it by ear and see how everybody's feeling about that. So I mentioned this in the opening, and I thought this was a brilliant idea. We have a huge layoff in between spring ball and fall camp. There's a huge layoff for some teams like Liberty. Liberty's like fall was wrapped up by like February, bro. I think like into February or early March. I think March 1st, their fall camp was done. So, I'm sorry, their spring camp was done. That's March 1st. So you're talking about almost a 5-month layoff. And of course, they got their weightlifting and all of their individual plans. But this will be a 5-month layoff, like a 4.5, 5 months layoffs before, they actually get into fall camp. So college football coaches reportedly, are exploring the addition of 6 off-season organized team activities very similar to the NFL format. And I think this will be magical for the sport, especially for, people like us who talk about this thing so often, even in the off-season, 4 episodes a week for me alone. It gives you something else to talk about, even though it'll be only 6 of them. But if you put that thing, maybe not in May, since a lot of camps do end in April or at the end of March. But if you put it in June, it'll give us that much more. Organized team activities like you do your spring camp or pre-spring camp, which is typically your circuit training, teaching these kids how to be teammates, putting them in crazy conditions so they can learn to be better teammates. And then you have your spring camp. Then you have this huge layoff before fall camp. These organized team activities, if they put them in June, like the beginning of June, that'll just give us something like, damn, spring camp's over. We got to wait a while for fall camp. They give us these organized team activities. It'll just give us something to talk about. The media will definitely eat this up. College football is a growing sport. Like, I'm here for it. I'm definitely here for it. So that is all for our Into the News segment. Don't forget that this show is sponsored by BetUS. You can save 125%. You get a match bonus when you use that code CFB Nation. Let's get into a new segment. I'm debuting a new segment. Really happy about this new segment. It's called Governor's Market Watch. And the 3 key things to remember is, what are we buying stock on? Like, we're all in. We're buying a bunch of stock on it. What are we holding stock on? Like, we got it, maybe like a swing trade. Buying stock could be like, it could be an extended trade. You know, you go all in, you could day trade with it. And the sell is like, what are we getting rid of? What are we out of? So this is called the Governor's Market Watch. And today, and this won't be a segmented episode every day, but like certain days I will, like, let's go look at some team stock and see how we feel about quite a few teams. So let's get into it. So today we're going to do quarterbacks, coaches, and coordinators. Let's check the tape and audit the hype before the season gets here. So quarterbacks, who am I 100% buying stock on? You all know where I'm at with Garrett Nussmeier, and I believe in him a lot, though my faith in Brian Kelly isn't as strong. Even though he's done a lot of winning down there in Baton Rouge, my faith in him isn't as strong as it is in Garrett Nussmeier. So the quarterback that I'm buying 1,000% stock on right now is Cade Klubnik. I think Clemson's high in everybody's top 25. We see it, and a big reason for it is Cade Klubnik. I think we seen him come to the emergence. Why? Coming out of his 2022 class, he was regarded as the best quarterback in the class. And we started to see some of those results yielded last year. And I think part of it was Dabo Swinney allowing Garrett Riley to be great, and also Cade Klubnik understanding of the offense and to the weapons that he had around him. He had a myriad of weapons around him, and he was able to dot people up. So I'm 100% buying Cade Klubnik stock. I can't wait for the Battle of Death Valley. We will be in attendance. I did talk to Moon earlier. Already been confirmed. I think they have a really great wide receiver room in Wesco, Moore, and Williams. And that air raid system, Klubnik has mastered it. We've really seen the coming of age of Cade Klubnik. I expect him, to be listed in a myriad of awards, whether it's the Davey O'Brien Award for the nation's top quarterback. Don't be surprised if he's there for the Heisman that second week in December in New York. I'm buying all Cade Klubnik stock. I'm buying all Clemson stock. I'm buying all Dabo Swinney stock, because 2 years ago, short seasons ago, I was one of those people who said Dabo Swinney can't do it his way in this era. Just with the way teams were building, like just in 2023, we've seen Florida State get active in a portal. They got extremely active in a portal, and they was able to build. And yes, they were, whether you want to say it was robbery or not, they were kept outside of the college football playoff. But a big reason for that was because they got so active in a portal. I think in this era now, high school is still most important. And I would say I would want at least 87 to 90% of my team coming from high school, and then you build them, and you building a lot of trust with them. And Dabo Swinney has probably done that better than any other coach in the nation. So the fact he's doing it his way, the fact, Cade Klubnik is going to perform at a very high level this season, I'm buying all Cade Klubnik stock. So we talk about who I'm buying, who I'm holding on. Maybe this is like a swing trade. For now, I'm holding my stock on Luke Altmaier. I'm not getting rid of it. I believe that last year wasn't a fluke. I think some people believe what Illinois did last year was a one-off, but something is brewing at Champaign. You've seen it through the season. You've seen it in a bowl game versus South Carolina, but Brett Malima kind of outschmucked, if that makes sense, Shane Beamer in that game with some of those fake injuries just to slow down their offense. I know they lost a great deal of their wide receiver room and Franklin and Pat Bryant, but I believe that kid Hudson Clement from West Virginia will produce. I like what Barry Lundy Jr. and Luke Altmaier are building. I did not know that Luke Altmaier was as mobile as he was. Now, I'm not saying he's a dual threat quarterback, but he showed time, especially in like that Nebraska game is a game that come to mind for me, where they were given every reason to lose that game. Luke Altmaier wouldn't give up. He continued to make plays, whether that's throwing in the pocket, throwing outside the pocket, or picking up yards with his legs. And it's been impressive to see his maturation. I believe he's going to be in the quest, because this is how much I believe in him and Barry Lundy Jr., his offensive coordinator. He'll be up there for when we talk about Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year. I believe his name will be one of those names you'll hear. I like Illinois' schedule. Now, is it a one-off? That's the thing that everybody's trying to figure out with Illinois. Like, we've seen a lot of people's top 25, but is this thing truly a one-off? I don't think it is. I'm buying a lot of Illinois stock. I like Luke Altmaier a lot. So I believe we hold on to this stock and we will yield more gains later on. I truly believe that. I'm selling stock. Who I'm selling stock on, and the fans of Columbus will get upset at me for this, but I've been consistent with this. I've always been consistent with this. I don't like when quarterback competitions bleed into the regular season. I've said it before. I said it a million times again. Not saying that this one will bleed into the regular season, but I can only go based on what I have seen with Ohio State in the past. What I saw back in 2023 with Devin Brown and Kyle McCord. So I didn't like the handling of that situation. It seemed like the coaches were divided. It seemed like the players were divided. And sometimes as a wide receiver, who's going to be that guy in the huddle? How does this guy throw the ball? How does this guy lead? Like, we want to know all of that. So I thought that coming into the season, this was Julian Sand's spot and Julian Sand's spot only. I thought he'd be further along. We had a discussion yesterday on Reaction Monday, and we were naming teams that we felt like they were ahead of schedule, teams that we felt like they were on schedule, teams that we felt like they were behind schedule. With all of the production that Ohio State lost via the draft, and shout out to Ryan Day, hats off to him, to get 14 people drafted and more from UDFA, it shows you that Ohio State is a hotbed for being able to put people into the NFL. Year in and year out, they've been able to do it. But I don't like this. Julian Sand should have been able to come in, win this race. Lincoln Conho has definitely made this something that's going to be really intriguing, in my opinion. So I am selling Ohio State quarterback room stock right now. 100%, I'm out. Now, this can change. We do got a few months before fall camp start. And if, first week of fall camp, Ryan Day comes out, does a press conference, hey, Julian Sand is our guy. Hey, Lincoln Conho is our guy. Whatever he decides, I just want him to do it early. Do not have us be like, yo, who the quarterback, bro? We listening to Bucknuts podcast trying to figure out we on 3 24/7 Sports. Like, who Ohio State quarterback? Yo, I remember just trying to figure that out back in 2023. I don't want that again. So right now, based on how they handled it in the past, and then, hopefully they've learned from that and they're able to name a starting quarterback soon. And I would have said, yo, Julian Sand by a mile, but the way Lincoln has performed all the spring season, balled out during the spring game, like I said, I don't know. And I don't like quarterback controversies. I just don't. I think a decision needs to be made. So I'm selling Ohio State's quarterback. It is what it is. So let's talk about head coaches in the governor's market watch. Who are we buying? Who are we holding our stocks on? And who are we completely selling? For coaches, I'm buying Shane Beamer stock. 100%. His ability to recruit, the culture that he's been able to create in South Carolina, got 5 players drafted into the 2025 NFL draft. He's cooking, and don't piss Shane Beamer off, because Shane Beamer's one of them guys. We can really go outside. We can step outside. You see, he wanted all the smoke with Brett Bielema. After that bowl game, he wanted all the smoke with him because he knew what Brett Bielema was doing. That's why I said Brett Bielema out-schmucked him, and he got away with it. It is what it is. But I really like what Shane Beamer is doing. Lenore Sellers was stellar last season. 100%. There was just games he completely took over. You look at a team that, if they were not robbed in the LSU game, they're probably in the college football playoff last season. Really, if you really think about it, you think about how Lenore Sellers put that team on their back in the game against Clemson last year. I'm buying Shane Beamer stock because I believe in him. And I've said this before on this show that he didn't choose football. Football chose him. Of course, at some point, he chose football too. But I'm just saying he was born in this. His pa told him, his father, Frank Beamer, told him all about this game. And you see the passion. Like, he bleeds football. And you see it in South Carolina. I think it's going to be legit this year. I am buying Shane Beamer stock. Now, what stock am I holding on? This is a stock that I believe, just because I'm holding on it, I ain't getting rid of it. I'm not selling it. But it's a stock that I believe that can get future returns if we just hold on to it. And I believe that's Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. the resume speaks for itself. Like what he was able to do at his last few stops, all he's been able to do is win. And we look at the inaugural season, and then the first thing that comes to our minds are like, hey, he's after Nick Saban. They go 9-4. Kind of get embarrassed in the bowl game. Had an embarrassed loss to Oklahoma last year, and it was like, wow, from my perspective, they went 9-4. You are what your record says you are. From the perspective of people down in Tuscaloosa, them dudes went like 2-10, bro. They didn't even make a bowl game, because that's what football is down there in Tuscaloosa. Football is life. But I believe that Kalen DeBoer has came into the season. He's been motivated. He's been able to tidy some things up. He got his partner in crime, Grubb, back. Ty Simpson, I think, is a guy that they believe in at wide receiver. I'm sorry, a guy that they believe at quarterback. I love the wide receiver room with Williams, with Jeremy Bernard, and the kid Horton that they got via the transfer portal from Miami. I like what this Alabama team has to offer. Watch out for them. They can 100% win the SEC. I'm holding stock. I'm thinking that I could get future returns. I really do think I could get future returns with this team. And I think that the passing attack will look more like Washington with Ty Simpson at the helm. I think with Jalen Milroe last year, with Nick Sheridan as offensive coordinator, they kind of had to do what Tommy Reese had to do in 2023, kind of had to cater the offense around his skill set, and maybe he didn't make the developments as a passer that as they had expected. But with Ty Simpson, I think they got a guy that can run their system with the wide receivers that they have. I mentioned them earlier, in Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams, who's the freshman stud from last season, and Isaiah Horton. I'm holding on this DeBoer stock. I think we're going to get a lot of returns for it, so I'm not day trading with this. I'm not sweet trading with this. I'm going to hold on to this stock for a while. It's like crypto. I'm going to hold on to this jump. We're going to put this to the side. No options. I think we'll get future returns with that, so I'm holding on this stock. I'm selling Josh Heupel stock. 100% selling Josh Heupel stock. And I think Tennessee has been one of the darlings of the sport over the last few years. And what Heupel's been able to do in his time in Knoxville is nothing short of stellar. But I believe the Nico Iamaleava situation was mishandled. And it wasn't just mishandled by Josh Heupel. It was also mishandled by Nico. It was also mishandled by his dad. I think all parties involved lost. Now, I do think Nico will win in the end because he's out back home, sunny California, UCLA. I believe that Tino Sinceri, the offense that he's going to run, fits Nico Iamaleava's skill set better than the veer and shoot did during his time in Tennessee. I think that UCLA may be a potential bowl eligible team. I truly believe that. I believe that with Nico, with Tino Sinceri, with some of the players that they have on the outside, they'll be able to make a lot of plays. But I'm selling stock on Heupel because, one, their return on production is abysmal. They're only returning 58% of their production, and most of that is offensively. This defense is going to look pretty much brand new, if we're being honest. I think the thing that bothered me most about the Tennessee thing is, like, you guys know me. I'm always on the player side. It is what it is. Y'all can call me whatever y'all want to call me. But I think that bothered me most was how they were openly, like, tampering with other teams' quarterback. Like, Avery Johnson didn't even enter the portal, bruh. That's tampering. But, yeah, we don't have a governing body to penalize teams for doing that, even though, Tennessee was just hit with infractions from Jeremy Pruitt back in the day. But yeah, that's 100% tampering. It really was. And also TCU, Josh Hoover. Again, another quarterback that wasn't in the portal, but they were trying to get him to come over there because they mishandled this situation. I think they thought because of their brand, because they've been one of the darlings of the sport over the last 3 seasons, I think that they thought people would be like knocking down the door to get there. But I don't know. Like, I really liked that wide receiver core last year. I really enjoyed playing with them on College Football 25. I did not use the veer and shoot offense. It's not my style of offense. It just really isn't. But I can't say that I'm selling stock on Tennessee. I seen that some publications had them as like a top 25 team. I don't believe currently, when I look at their roster, when I look at their return in production, yes, they made the playoff last year. And I think sometimes we do this with college basketball as well. I think sometimes we want to give team credit just because, okay, they made the playoff last year, so they deserve to be, in the top 25 because of that. College football is what have you done for me lately? Not what have you done for me last year. And Florida State can tell you that firsthand. Because remember, Florida State was one of the darlings of the sport in 2023. 2024 comes around, and yeah, We saw what happened with Florida State last year. A lot of people was calling for Mike Norvell's job. He ended up firing both of his coordinators, and the coordinator that I like a lot in Alex Atkins. It is what it is. But I'm selling Tennessee stock, based on their return of production. Hey, prove me wrong. If they prove me wrong, I'm the first person to admit, I was dead wrong about Tennessee. I do it all the time. I was dead wrong about Billy Napier in Florida last year. I thought Buddy was not keeping his job. Looking at that schedule, one of the toughest schedules I've seen in almost a decade, no way that he keeps his job. Shut me up. Prove me wrong too. And I love when coaches do it, and I love when teams do it too. Coordinators. So this is our Governors Market Watch. Like I said, this is a new segment. I'm really happy of this segment. I love the development of this segment. So now we're talking about coordinators, who we buying stock on, who we holding stock, maybe to make a play later, but we think we'll get future gains, and then who we completely selling stock on. So for the coordinators, I'm buying Ben Arbuckle stock. I really love what he did in Wazoo last year, with John Matera at quarterback, year before that, what he did with Cameron Ward at quarterback. Ben Arbuckle is just one of those true air raid guys, and I believe he gives his quarterbacks full creativity in that offense. Yes, Seth Luttrell is a disciple of the air raid. He didn't truly run an air raid. He ran a lot of different type of things. It's based with the air raid, but he ran a lot of different systems during his time there. I think that we're going to see a more focused Oklahoma team this year. Brent Venables, whether he likes it or not, I believe he's coaching for his job. Now, they're not going to come out and say it like they did with Billy Napier last year, or like they did with Jeff Hafley in 2023 with Boston College, when the booster said, we got enough money to pay for him. We get rid of him now. And then he just decided not to lose another game in October and most of November. So they're not coming out and saying that, but I like Ben Arbuckle to be able to go to a powerhouse like Oklahoma, restore the roar, struggle a little bit in their first year in the SEC. So I'm really rooting for this program. I really like Ben Arbuckle. I think him and John Matera will be able to create magic. I'm excited for that. So I'm buying all Ben Arbuckle stock as it comes to the coordinators in our Governor's Market Watch. What stock am I holding on? I'm holding on to Andy Kalonicky stock. When I started to look at Penn State, I started to look at James Franklin. I started to look at, this team's running out of excuses, buddy. You really are. So at the end of this season, if Penn State don't make a deep playoff run or isn't in a national championship, and next season, don't get mad when I say, hey, James Franklin, congratulations, buddy, you played yourself. I will 100% say that, because they're running out of excuses. What they have up front on the offensive line, what they have on the defensive side of the ball, the fact that Jim Knowles is their defensive coordinator, Andy Kalonicky, who can scheme up, arguably the best running game in the country, got Trevor Pena in the transfer portal. We started to look at this team, and we started to run out of excuses. Now, I saw at times last year Penn State was scared to go out and grab it. Like, they had a lead versus Ohio State, didn't really call a lot of shot plays. They were just playing scared. I don't want to see that this year. You guys should come in and say, we the big dogs this year. That's 100% what Penn State should do. Come in and say, we big dogs this year. We're not being humble. The Big Ten is for the taking. We're going to take it, and the college football world is for the taking, and we're going to take that too. So I'm holding stock on Andy Kalonicky. I love the way that he script plays. I love the way that he uses his backs. The way that he used Tyler Warren last year. He was really creative with that. Drew Aller is a guy. I know a lot of people were kind of mum on him. He did have a horrible game against Notre Dame. Missed some easy throws. Like that one to Nick Singleton on the goal line. It's one of the first ones I think about. Is you learn that throw in Pee Wee, and he wasn't able to make that throw. I'm holding stock on Andy Kalonicky. I do believe in the long term we'll get some returns, but I'm buying Ben Arbuckle because I think in the interim we'll get immediate returns. Andy Kalonicky, I'm gonna hold on to that stock a little bit longer, and maybe we'll get some returns later on. I'm selling Gus Malzahn stock, 100%. I did not like the way that Mike Norvell handled the firing of Alex Atkins. I hated it. 100% hated it. And I hated it for a myriad of reasons, but I understood. Hey, we had a terrible year last year after having a great year in 2023. The administration we need something. We need some type of scapegoat. And he fired both of his offensive coordinators. Now, Gus Malzahn, in many ways, is like a Chip Kelly. He's probably better as a coordinator than he is a head coach, and he's had success before. But when I looked at that UCF roster, I was like, maybe UCF can be one of the sneaky teams in the Big 12, because every year in the Big 12, we have teams that just come out of nowhere, a la TCU 2022, a la Oklahoma State 2023, a la BYU and Arizona State, Iowa State in 2024. Every year we have teams that just kind of come out of nowhere. And I thought that last year, UCF, with the talent that they had in the running back room with RJ Harvey, the kid from Arkansas who transferred there, quarterback, and they went 4-8 last year, got embarrassed by Colorado last season. I'm not sure if me saying I'm selling Gus Malzahn stock has much to do with him. It has some to do with him. I don't think it has all. I think it's just me not liking what Florida State did, via the portal last season. What they did at quarterback last season, what they did at quarterback this season. Now, hey man, Tommy Castellanos, he's a straight up dude. Been able to talk to him during ACC media days last season. He's a cool dude, fun quarterback to use in college football 25. I've been hearing that he has this injury that may keep him from playing this year. I think he can be a good systematic guy. We did see him grow last year under Bill O'Brien, ultimately getting benched for Grayson James, but he didn't turn the ball over as much, and he didn't scramble as much as well. I think Gus Malzahn would allow him to scramble a little bit more. It's just I didn't like the treatment of Alex Atkins. Alex Atkins coming after the 2023 season was one of those coaches. We say, hey, Florida State can duplicate some of the successes that they had in 2023. We're looking at Alex Atkins and saying, yo, he can be a head coach. Now he's a positional coach at LSU, and he'll find his way. He'll definitely find his way at LSU. I just didn't like his treatment, so I am selling Gus Malzahn stock 100%. So this is Governor Marcus Watch. I hope you guys truly enjoyed this segment. I enjoyed this segment. That was fun. It was refreshing, almost like a lyrical exercise. We're going to pay some bills. We're going to holler at our sponsor, BetUS. We'll be right back. Look at you out here using all these other sports books, and you ain't even using the best one. BetUS, get 125% match bonus when you use the promo code CFB Nation. Yeah, you heard me correctly. 125% match bonus on your first deposit using that code CFB Nation. We know that college football is in the off season, even though we don't celebrate that. CFB Nation, we do college football 24/7, but there are plenty of things for you guys to bet on.
Who will have the most wins? OKC Thunder or Cleveland Cavaliers? Can Luka and LeBron make it all mesh to make it to the play-in tournament? Maybe you're a college basketball guy ready to risk it all for Florida to make it to the big dance.
Basketball isn't for you? Maybe you're a football guy. Well, BetUS got you covered with this year's UEFA Championship. Can Liverpool or Barcelona win it all? Will Erling Haaland or Harry Kane lead their teams to victory?
May is going to get popping when the Kentucky Derby hits town. BetUS has you covered in that way too, with all major horse racing events. Point is, type in that promo code CFB Nation and go get that money.
Shout out to our sponsors, BetUS, and you can get 125% match bonus on your first deposit using the code CFB Nation. College football has always been about hate, in my opinion. And not real hate, but like hate on the field. Like when you think about the Iron Bowl, that game between Alabama and Auburn, it's not a far distance from one another. It's just always been legitimate hate. Or you think about that game between Michigan and Ohio State, and we've seen how emotional Ohio State fans have been the last 4 years in defeat against Michigan. And even though they won the national championship last year, that loss to Michigan still lives rent-free in their minds, whether they're willing to admit it or not. Hate is a huge part of the sport. It's love at the end of the day, because you respect that, hey, I can't stand your team, but I love the passion you have for my team. And I will say the same thing reciprocated. Hey, I can't stand your team, but I love the passion that you have for your team as well. I think with this conference realignment, and I talked yesterday about how the true commissioners of the sport are these broadcast companies, and I really do believe that. I believe that 100%. But over the last decade, conference realignment has been tearing those rivalries apart. And I'm going to say this right now. That's a crime against our sport, and it's time we fix it. So, I got Oklahoma State video playing, and the fact that we won't get Bedlam this year is heartbreaking. It's 100% heartbreaking. And I believe I heard something that even if they attempted to get this, that we might not get it for another decade or so, or a little less than a decade. I think that we need a rivalry clause that, hey, even if this conference realignment, the political BS of the sport, the semantics, as I always like to say, the semantics of the sport, that a lot of these story rivalries get to stay the same, even if, like, hey, you leaving our conference and going to another conference. I do get it from, like, a personal perspective. Like, I remember when Maryland, I'm talking college basketball here, when Maryland left the ACC for greener pastures in the Big Ten, Mike Krzyzewski said, I'll never schedule him again, because they left the ACC. But I think that was two things. I think that was Mike Krzyzewski's, Coach K, his love for the ACC and his disappointment in Maryland, because he always loved those rivalries. I think sometimes we need to take the semantics out of it and have a rivalry clause, even if it's just one game. Like, hey, Oklahoma should have said, hey, SEC, we coming. But the one game we want to protect, well, Texas coming, we don't got to protect the Red River Rivalry, but we want to protect this Bedlam series because what it means to our state, what it means to each of these fan bases, is one of those high revenue generating games, and we won't get it because of semantics, because of politics, because this conference don't like the way that conference try to, infiltrate our conference and take all of our damn teams. I get it. I get that you bitter, but there needs to be some sort of rivalry clause where one protected game is there. Like, we didn't get the Backyard Brawl for a very long time. And I remember when we first got the Backyard Brawl back in 2022, I remember having to turn my TV down because it was so loud. When we got to see Pitt and West Virginia play again, I went to Pitt in Syracuse game this year. It was in Pitt. And I live in Virginia, and the route that I take, you really get to see the Backyard Brawl in full effect because I'm in Virginia, and then I was in Maryland. No, I was in Virginia, then West Virginia, then Maryland, and then, we was in Pennsylvania. Like, it's not a far trip at all, and the fact that we didn't have that because of politics is ridiculous. I think both of them originally was Big East schools. They were Big East football schools, and then Pitt headed to the ACC. I think West Virginia stayed in the Big East for a while before they finally ended up going to the Big 12. And we lost such a storied rivalry because of semantics. We need a rivalry clause. Like, we didn't have that game for a long time. Think about it. We didn't have Texas A&M in Texas for almost a decade because of semantics, because of politics, because Texas A&M kind of saw the future of the sport and say, yeah, we're going to go get this SEC money. And of course, Texas was upset about that because, like, hey, yo, you live in, the Big 12, Big 8. That's always been our thing. Like, y'all leaving. And it's bitterness and it's semantics and it's politics, and that stuff needs to stay off of the football field. But we need a rivalry clause. We 1,000% need a rivalry clause. Like, I can't believe we're not seeing Bedlam this year. I can't believe it. Missouri versus Kansas. Another game we lost when, Missouri decided to leave the Big 12 just like Texas A&M did, and they headed to the SEC, and we haven't had that game since 2022. We haven't at all. Even the Civil War may be in jeopardy. Well, with the new Pac-12 is trying to build with Teresa Gold, shout out to her, and hats off for the job that she's been able to do. We need a rivalry clause. Every team should be able to have that one guaranteed game. Like, hey, kid, whatever happens with this conference realignment crap, if we end up going to 2 super conferences, or we end up having a myriad of, conferences or pods as they once discussed a long time ago, there needs to be a rivalry clause. 100% there needs to be a rivalry clause. We can't continue to lose really good games because of this. Texas and Texas Tech, we lost that game as well. It's crazy. So here's what I believe is the solution. Every FBS program that changes conferences must be allowed to protect one rivalry matchup for 10 years. As simple as that. Because it says, hey, in the interim, for at least for the better part of a decade, we'll still get this series. No matter what semantics or politics, things that have nothing to do with college football, we're good for a decade. And then at that time, we'll come to the table and see if we can be good for a decade again. It should be protected. The NCAA or whatever governing body that replaces them put this in writing. It's almost contractual. This is exactly what we need. When a school leaves a conference, they must negotiate a home-and-home continuation of their most iconic rivalry. It is easy. It's as simple as that. The game becomes a non-conference, protected slot in their schedule. It could all be so simple, but because of bitterness, because of politics, because semantics, the Big 12 is okay. Oklahoma State, they're okay. You guys are in good hands with Brett Yarmark. You're in really good hands. He was able to go get other teams. Your conference survived. Yes, you did lose some of the highest grossing, teams in the sport in Oklahoma and Texas, but it's okay. Like, why does semantics come down to this? Like, why couldn't we protect Bedlam, bruh? But like, after I seen that Backyard Brawl in 2022, I'm like, y'all, we didn't have this for years because of what again? Somebody please remind me. Please remind me. This is very simple. A decade that these games are protected for. It has to be at least a decade. That way, it's no interruption. You just know that rivalry is protected. You get the fans what they want. You preserve identity. You honor history that the sport built. So just imagine, right? Whenever this Bedlam series happened, whether it's 7, 8, 9, 10 years from now, we're going to look back and say, yo, why was this ended again? What happened with this? Why was there such a long lapse? Just like we did with the Backyard Brawl when they was able to finally figure that out. And now we're getting that annually. But it's crazy. So, I think that if we don't fix this, here's where we headed. A world where every September is filled like a glorified non-conference menu. I believe Joe Klatt say that he believes that somebody else needs to take over scheduling and we need to have like NFL style scheduling. I couldn't agree with him more because some of these non-conference schedules, even though they've gotten better, like I think of Michigan a few years ago where they won their national championship, their non-conference schedule was Cupcake, Georgia. I think one of the years they won their national championship, their non-conference schedule was crazy. And then when you think about it, I say that the true commissioners of the sport are these TV networks. They get what they want. Whoever gets the Bedlam series will be happy to get the series because they know a lot of people are going to be watching because there's so much history that's around this. This is bigger than college football. This is about two teams in the same state trying to claim stake and who the state belongs to. That's what it's about. The Cowboys and the Sooners. It's crazy. So, of course, there'll be some people that say, well, SEC may be going to 9 games. You can't really protect the rivalry if the SEC is going to 9 games. I get it, but I'm not asking y'all to save every, rivalry. I'm just saying every school, once you go through this litigation and conference realignment, should be able to protect one rivalry. I'm just asking, just protect one. Not one. Not 2, not 3, just one. Just protect one game. That's all I'm asking for. Just protect that. So, I don't know how y'all feel about it. I don't know where y'all stand with this. I don't know where y'all at with it, but I truly believe it. Let me know in the comment section. I always look forward to seeing people comment in the comment section. A lot of times they'll comment on the shorts. I don't really see as much comments on a long form video, and I get it. A lot of times I be live for like 40, 45 minutes, upwards to an hour. But we truly need a rivalry clause that protects a lot of these storied rivalries. It has to happen. Not getting Bedlam this year is a mistake. Not having a Backyard Brawl for as long as we did is a mistake. Texas and Texas A&M, thank goodness we got that back last year. Oregon State, we don't know where that's headed. We truly don't. So we're about to lose out on a lot of these story rivalries because of politics. And it's really stupid. This is governor's ruling. Today, I say that realignment needs a rivalry clause, and I hope that we're able to make this happen. And I don't know how we make it happen, but we do need that. And if it lasts for a decade, it'll be easy to fix. Let's get into our last segment of the day. We're going to go around the nation and talk about top 10 coaches under 40. Typically with these lists, I like to go 10-1, but I'm going 1-10. Why? Because I feel like it. Actually, we'll start with honorable mention, then I'll go 1-10. Joe Sloan is an honorable mention for me. LSU offensive coordinator. 38 years old, man. I think what we may see him do with Garrett Nussmeier this year, he'll get a lot of notoriety if Garrett Nussmeier is able to win this Heisman this upcoming year. So, 38 years old. I think he turns 39 this year. Definitely could have been listed on this list. He just missed the top 10. And there may be somebody on this list you guys may have higher than him. Scotty Walden is another guy at UTEP, young, 35 years old. Trying to rebuild this team. He's going to bring that SEC swagger to them. So he's honorable mention. And Brandon Bailey, Georgia Southern defensive coordinator, 29 years old. I know Moon has spent a lot of time with that program, so I had to have him on this list as well. So let's get into our top 10. We're going to go 1-10. We ain't going to go 10-1 like we normally do. That one is Dan Lannon. I got Oregon showing on the screen right now. That one is easy. And I would argue that he might be the best coach in college football. Of course, Kirby Smart has a seat at the table. Of course, Steve Sarkisian has a seat at the table. But, for this under 40 list, I have to have Dan Lanning. I believe he's a player's coach. I believe he gets a lot out of his players. He got, like a 35-6 record as a head coach. He's bringing that SEC type vibes out west and Eugene. And that's why I think they was able to adapt so easily to the Big Ten in year one. They went 13-0, man. 12-0 regular season, won the conference championship. Unfortunately, in the playoffs, they ran into an Ohio State team that was pissed off from the Michigan loss. So Dan Lannon, for me, Yes, number 1, top 10 coaches under 40. Number 2, I got Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley is so disrespected. And he's disrespected in this space by people that I respect. And it don't make sense to me. Like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's a little bias by me because I love the air raid. So maybe that's, my bias, or maybe because I've been to games and I've seen this guy call plays and I see that he doesn't use a play call sheet, that everything's in memory. He just has a little index card of blitz packages or whatever that is on there, or what the team like to do on certain downs. I really like Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley, I think he turns 40 this year. He's not 40 quite yet. So he's definitely number 2 on that list. What he's been able to do was, quarterbacks. We've seen what he's been able to do with the Baker Mayfields. Seen what he's able to do with Kyler Murray. What he done with Jalen Hurts, bro. Propelled Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and a lot of that was the time that Jalen Hurts spent in Norman and learning how to play that position and learning it with that air raid. So Lincoln Riley is number 2 for me. Marcus Freeman. Some people probably argue that Marcus Freeman should have been hired. Elite guy defensively. What he was able to do with that Notre Dame team. Think about how you felt about Notre Dame. They seem like they have these like weird losses. Marshall a few seasons ago, and IU last year. But think about how you felt about and what you thought about Notre Dame after that loss. Truly, just sit there and think about what you thought about them after that loss last year. We were like, yo, Marcus Freeman gotta go. Y'all not going to admit that was some of the conversation, but that was some of the conversation, especially after they was able to beat Texas A&M. They was doing it ugly. They was able to run the rock with Love and Jadarian Price. But yes, Marcus Freeman, number 3 of my top coaches under 40. Number 4, Kenny Dillingham. Kenny Dillingham will probably be number 2 on a lot of people's list. I know for D-Now's list, he'll probably be number 2 on that list. Big 12 title in year 2. The media, including me. I hate to say including me, but including me. Had them ranked as the worst school in the conference last year. I can't wait for my media packet this year. I won't be rating them the worst team in the conference this year. I think I'll be probably ranking. I know a lot of people high on BYU, a lot of people high on Arizona State. I'm most high on Iowa State at the moment, but Kenny Dillingham at 34 years old has accomplished a lot in this sport, and he has a bright future. They really had an opportunity to beat Texas last year in that game, so I'm excited to see what Kenny Dillingham does in year 3 at Arizona State. Sharon Moore, I didn't know where to put him at. He's only 39 years old, relatively young. Did win the championship as an offensive coordinator. Had some success last year. It wasn't pretty. Most of the season was very ugly. We remember the ugly Texas laws. But they had some wins last year. That Ohio State game last year, to win it the way that they won it, it was physicality, elite defense. They were able to seal the deal at the end. They were able to beat Alabama in a bowl game last year. So I know that Sharon Moore, in many ways, especially with this most recent fiasco where he going to choose the games that he's suspended for, and making sure that he go back home when he go back home to Norman, or to go to his alma mater, that he's there for that game. So I'm interested to see what Tony Petitti and Charlie Baker and others end up doing about him choosing it to do it that way after the Connor Stallion stuff. But you can't doubt what he's able to do. And in that championship winning season, there were some games he had to coach without Harbaugh. I think a lot of people forget that. Like, him being able to win the Penn State game, him being able to win the Ohio State game, because I don't believe Harbaugh was there for that. So shout out to Sharon Moore. Sharon Moore, only 39 years old. He's number 5 on my list. Sean Lewis, San Diego State. I think CFB Nation has always been high for this guy, man. We've always really liked what Sean Lewis has been able to do at San Diego State now. I didn't like how he was treated at Colorado. I felt like coaches do it all the time. I'm like, who's going to be the scapegoat? Can't really blame the players because it's your responsibility to get the players there. So we start blaming coordinators, similar to what we seen Mike Norvell do last year at Florida State. Didn't really have the players to really run Alex Atkins' system. And also, Alex Atkins was suspended for the first few games of last season, and we saw Mike Norvell call plays. See how that worked. And when he came back, it wasn't any better. But, at the same time, a lot of times these coaches are made scapegoats. So, yeah, Sean Lewis is definitely on this list. Glenn Schumann should probably be higher. I have him at 7 as Georgia defensive coordinator. Continue to put players in the NFL. He's one of the smartest minds in the sport. What that Georgia defense is able to do year in, year out, the way that they build a pipeline, they replace players. They got a guy like Chris Jones, who I've interviewed on this very show before. I think he's like 3rd at outside linebacker right now. So next year, or this year, he'll get a lot of snaps. But next year, when he's really getting a lot of snaps, you're going to be like, where he came from? And he just grew in the system. Georgia does a really great job at that, being able to grow people in the system. They're active in the portal every year. So it's not quite to the level that Dabo is, where Dabo is able to home grow these players and keep them within the program. But yeah, shout out to Glenn Schulman, man, only 35 years old, one of the greatest minds defensively in the sport. Shout out to him. Brian Hartline, Ohio State's offensive coordinator. You can't deny what Ohio State's been able to produce at wide receiver. Brian Hartline is a huge reason for that. You know, when you think about the Chris Olaves, you think about Marvin Harrison Jr., you think about what Jeremiah Smith is doing, Mecca Abuka, like the list goes on and on and on. Brian Hartline is a huge reason for that. He's only 38 years old. I'm interested to see how long he stayed there. Let's say Ohio State, let's say I'm wrong about the quarterback room. Let's say Ohio State is putting up points. Ohio State is in this playoff. And like, let's say heading to the playoffs, they one of the teams to beat in the playoff. Who's to say that he won't get a coaching opportunity? So that'll be really interesting to see, to be honest with you. Number 9, Will Stein, another Big Ten guy, offensive coordinator, only 35 years old. Quietly orchestrating one of the best attacks in the nation. Many people were highly critical of Dylan Gabriel last year, and they used to piss me off because everybody know I'm a huge Dylan Gabriel fan. But, 13-0, year one, and in a different conference. Pac-12 was like finesse ball. You kind of play sexy football. Big Ten is not like that at all. You better learn how to grind out some games. You better be able to bring the physicality defensively. You better be able to win some ugly games. I feel like Oregon was able to do that. And it's because the way that Dan Lanning has built this team to be like that SEC beast out west in Eugene. So Will Stein's on this list. And Garrett Riley could have been higher on this list. He's number 10. What he's able to do at TCU and yield some of the results he yield with Max Duggan at quarterback. Remember meeting him at Senior Bowl in 2023 and asked him a few questions. But yeah, Garrett Riley, he's going to really cook up. And somebody's going to get that kid a job offer after this season. If Cade Klubnik is able to do what I think he'll be able to do this upcoming season, look out for Garrett Riley. So these are my top 10 coaches under 40. Just wanted to do kind of a different segment. That was real fun, almost like a lyrical exercise. I always get sad. I'm not going to lie. I always get sad when the show ends. I'm like, damn, man. 50 minutes gone that fast. Yeah, 55 minutes gone that fast, man. But as I always like to say, there are no more victories in the sport that survive in advance. That's why college football has the greatest regular season. And until next time, you all take care. We're live again 4 p.m. tomorrow, man. Be here or be square. You all take care. 1. Governor of college football. We're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's CJ on
defensive
that
minds.
track.
They have to be better on that side of the ball.